We mentioned that protists are extremely diverse, and scientists are still debating how to organize them and how many kingdoms of protists there even are. But in general, they can be lumped into three basic groups: the animal-like protists, the fungi-like protists, and the plant-like protists. The group of protists in the animal-like category are known as protozoans. They are typically unicellular heterotrophs that live in moist environments. If you take a sample of pond water, you'll probably find many protozoans swimming around hunting for prey. Again, most of the protozoans are actively moving around in their wet environment, searching for food. Protozoans are grouped by the different strategies they have for getting around. The first group of protozoans we're going to talk about are the ciliates. You may be familiar with the paramecium, which is an example of a ciliate. Ciliates are covered in tiny hair-like projections called cilia. These cilia beat rhythmically to propel the protist through the water. If you want to see what this looks like, there will be a link to a YouTube video below this video showing the cilia moving on a ciliate protist. Paramecia also use their cilia to help them take in food. The cilia push food toward a groove in the protist called the oral groove. This is still an example of phagocytosis. So as the food collects in the oral groove, it is engulfed in membrane, forming a food vacuole. Then that food is digested by enzymes. You will also find a video of what this looks like after this video. Sarcodines are another group of protozoans with a different strategy for getting around. Their method is more like oozing forward. They extend projections of their plasma membrane forward and slowly fill them with cytosol, which, if you remember, is the fluid inside the cell. These projections are called pseudopodia. Podia means foot, so you can think of these as pseudo feet. Amoebas are an example of a sarcodine protist. Again, if you want to see what it looks like when an amoeba crawls around, check out the collection of short videos following this one. Just like how the ciliates use their cilia not just for movement, but also for taking in food, the sarcodines also use their pseudopodia to engulf their prey. They do this by extending pseudopodia around the food particle and forming a food vacuole. Then, just like in the ciliates, the food is digested with enzymes. This is just another form of phagocytosis. There will be a video of this for you to watch as well. The final way that protozoans move is by using a flagellum, and this group is known as the flagellates. The flagellum is a long tail that the flagellate uses to propel itself around. But many flagellates also do some oozing or moving their cytosol to move, similar to the sarcodines. Euglena, which is a model organism used in a lot of biology research, is an example of a flagellate you may have come across. There will also be a video of Euglena moving using its flagellum. Protozoan reproduction is very similar to reproduction in bacteria. They undergo asexual reproduction through binary fission. Just like in bacteria, the genetic material and other cell structures, so in this case the organelles, because these are eukaryotes, are duplicated. Then the parent cell splits into two identical daughter cells. So those are the protozoans, the animal-like protists. Now we're going to talk about the fungus-like protists, also known as slime molds, which are really weird and interesting. You may have seen these before and just assumed they were fungi. Most of them are unicellular, but they often form large colonies that can be visible to the naked eye. They reproduce by forming spores, like fungi, which we'll talk about more when we cover fungi. They are often found in moist but not aquatic environments, so you'll find them in damp areas of forest, living on logs and leaf litter. The one shown in the picture here is also known as the dog vomit slime mold. I'm sure you can guess why. Slime molds may seem sedentary, but they actually do move. They slowly creep across the surface, releasing enzymes to digest food and then absorbing the nutrients. And even though they don't have a brain, slime mold colonies are remarkable in their ability to navigate complicated terrain. Some scientists and city planners got together and placed slime mold over topographic maps of different regions. As the slime mold grew and moved across the map, they noticed that it was replicating the patterns of highways and cities in those regions. Just like how city planners had found the most direct routes through mountains and rivers from one place to another, the slime mold seemed to be navigating the terrain in the same way. So it may be a useful tool for designing cities and transportation routes. Our final group are the plant-like protists. They can be either unicellular or multicellular. If you remember, kelp are an example of large multicellular plant-like protists. Most of them are autotrophs, though some can be both autotrophs and heterotrophs. They tend to live in aquatic environments where they are important primary producers. A primary producer is an organism that uses sunlight to produce ATP. We'll talk about that more when we go over photosynthesis in plants. But the reason primary producers are so important in the ecosystem is that they're harnessing that energy from the sun and bringing it into the food chain. By doing so, they are the foundation for the energy needed for all other life to survive.